topic for discussion is Agile project management practices is better than traditional project management practices in the market. And I'll be supporting this thought. And to support that, I would like to present certain facts and figures in front of everyone, because I do not want to ensure that I'm just talking, giving some examples of mangoes or restaurants or idli or dosa, because we are into the real world, and let's talk about what is happening in the real world. Based upon some of our studies, we have seen around 80 to 145 billion figures. Let's talk some data and let's be reasonable in our thinking, because we are into the IT world and we know IT doesn't work without data. So, according to some recent studies, around 80 to 145 billion is spent on the failed or the cancelled projects. This is an outcome of the discussion or the detailed study of Standardish Group. 25% to 40% is being spent upon non-profitable projects as a result of a rework. 50% are projects which are rolled back out of production, and around 30 billion amount of money is wasted because of lack of detailed iterative planning. These have been some of the figures which we have studied in recent past, and we got to know that since there was no proper interactive discussion within the client side and also from the service provider's end, there was no interactive discussion which can actually ensure that how the services are to be provided or how the products are required to be developed. Based upon a very long-lasting planning of 2 to 3 years, people were just working on. And hence, after 2 years of rigorous work, this was the outcome, that we lost this much money in spending the things. Now my question is, if you are making a plan for about 2 years or 3 years, why don't you have a methodology which would say that yes, come, let's discuss and see if the things are moving on in a proper way or not. If not, then what is the utility of having this large practice in place? Traditional project management practices, yes, they are very important and they throw a very good light on the concept and development, designing and planning of the stuff. But the challenge is that in the meanwhile, there is no cross-check upon that. A student is said that in the end of the year, he has to give class 10th board examinations, and there is no pre-boards, no half-yearly examinations, which can actually check how a student is performing in terms of learning the subject. End of the day, the result which comes out to be is a surprise for everyone that he was a brilliant student, but there is no outcome. And that is why this agile project management practices have been brought into the picture, which actually ensure that we have interactive and iterative understanding of how the project is moving on, which helps us to make sure, oh, if something is missing or something has to be involved or more better technology has to be included, let's do it right away. Instead, at a time when the project is failed and we land up giving justifications that because of this, because of that, some blame games as well, which doesn't land up into a fruitful solution. So I am strongly in favor of agile project management practices, which will ensure that we have common understanding on the platform on which we are working to give the desired results. Your first.
Thank you very much. It sounded to me like a very big political speech in Parliament. Okay, a brief introduction given, and left and right, how PMI or PMP is bad. Okay. First thing, if you are doing any planning which lasts for 2 years, then what will be the execution time? What will be the control and closure phase duration? That project lasts for almost 10 years. I never worked on any project which lasted for 10 years. So I can't make a comment on what he said. But yes, if we go according to waterfall methodology, yes, there is ample time given for planning and a lot of documentation is done. Now, does that mean that Agile says no documentation at all? No. I have this manifesto of Agile in front of me. I took this printout, which lists down all manifesto 12 principles of Agile and 4 whatever points are written in manifesto. Okay. Individuals and interaction or processes and tools. Do you mean to say that PMP doesn't say that don't interact with each other? Don't involve stakeholders? Of course, the stakeholders are involved, whether it's a change control board or whether there's a complete communication management process in the PMP, where you identify the stakeholder, which is a second process in initiation phase. Okay, so stakeholders are involved. It says that we always give working software. Who stopped you as a part of PMP not to give working software? I don't think it's a valid point on part of Agile saying that we will deliver always a working software. Okay, you deliver, you want to deliver. We also be delivering working software. You put your milestones in your schedule in such a way that after every iteration you deliver working software. You start with a prototype and deliver with a complete functional product to them. Customer collaboration. I heard about, some word called as requirement traceability matrix. That was part of PMP. What is that? Isn't it customer collaboration over there? We define that which customer is important, what requirements he has, how much say he has in that project, and what impact it will have if that particular requirement is not delivered. So at the time of verify scope process, you take that customer traceability matrix, you take the deliverable, and then you match whether the deliverable is as per the customer's requirement or not, and deliver it. Okay. Now there are other things that also Agile talks about. Definitely he'll come up with those things and then I'll contradict to him. But it's like that, I would say that Agile is something like that. Jack of all and ace of nothing. I don't want to follow any processes. I don't want to do any documentation. I leave it to the team to decide. The team is the most trusted people that I have. Okay, every day we have a stand-up meeting where we decide that what we are going to do today. The person will come up in front and he will say that I am going to do that. There are no rules, there are no laws. If there are no rules, there are no laws. Let me tell you, good people don't need laws to follow. They are good from the basic characteristics. And bad people will always find a workaround. You need to have some processes in place. You need to follow some strategy that, okay, if I were to develop something like this, what steps I am going to follow? I follow those steps, I prepare those documentation, and I deliver that. Today in India, IT companies are more of a service-oriented part. They are not in product development. And if they are in product development, they are very less. Majority of the companies, they provide, sort of manpower to other companies. You want this work, we'll do this work for you. Here are the people and we'll charge you on billing per person basis or something like that. So for us, for a labor, truly speaking, for a labor, it's very good to say that I don't follow any process. He tells me and I start, digging the pothole over there. I finish my work and I go home. Don't ask me to prepare any documentation, any quality checks and all those things. It's very simple for me. Yes, it is simple for you. But as an owner, in my company there's an account where there are more than 600 people working, right? Yes? So there are more than 600 people working for the last 2 years. We follow Agile. We don't do documentation. 600 people per day multiplied by 24 days, multiplied by 12 months, multiplied by 2 years. So much of work without documentation. Now if they decide to change the vendor, what will happen? So as such, you need to follow some basic processes. Now we'll go in details of those things as and when it comes. But again, I'll repeat, processes are important. Agile says processes are not important. Agile says we believe in people. Here PMP also says that yes, we also believe in people. People are important part of those processes. Okay. What PMP more says that it's not rigid that you have to follow all those 5 process groups, 9 knowledge areas, every process, 41, 42 process of that. you need to follow. It depends on your organization what you want to follow. Take those processes, select those processes and follow them. You can customize those processes. Need not to rigidly follow each and every step of those processes.
Anything more to add on that? What is it? There are many things which we need to add, and this is, as my friend has said, this is not a parliamentary debate. It's just a discussion which we are having about two approaches of project management. He very well put his thought, and I really appreciate him the way he has brought up the things forward in front of us. But he mentioned a couple of things like planning for 2 years, making the jack of all trades and master of nothing, and then our industry is more focused on service provision rather than product development. And then he also mentioned one of the key factors, if you would have noticed, that customization of those processes is required as and when the requirement comes into the picture. And that is what is the key area of what Agile project management technology or the approach says. It is not something when Agile says there will not be any documentation. We will just gather on a cup of tea and then discuss what needs to be done. Today we discuss this. Tomorrow we set up another level of plan, and third day we set up another level of plan. It is not like that. We try to define things and we are ready for any changes which comes on a random basis. I'll give you an example. Like in some of our discussions before today, one of my friend mentioned that CMDB is still not implemented in many of the organizations as of date today. Now, configuration management database is a very big project to handle, and it requires a lot of discussions and planning before it can be implemented. If today we try to ensure that configuration management database is implemented on a large scale with everything as a CI into the IT infrastructure, it would be a big thing to do. So the approach was we planned it into phases. We tried and ensured that all those phases are actually discussed with iterative discussions, and we are ready for any kind of changes which come into the picture. We are ready to discover the databases, put the information as CI into the CMDB. We are ready to discover data rooms, data warehouses, but then it involved an iterative planning. In starting, we followed project management, traditional project management methodology, preparing those MPPs and all that. But as we move forward, we try and ensure that we make changes into in that project plan based upon our requirement, because it is very, very fast driven. The market is very fast. Things are changing very fast. Today, if we have to use a discovery tool to discover all the CIs in the market, like if I take a case of PMC, in Remedy, we have got ADDM as a tool. The version mismatch between the configuration management database and ADDM will not support that discovery. So we'll have to change our approach then. And that is why Agile is brought into the picture to act as a catalyst and ensure that the traditional project management methodology which you have implemented, if we use an Agile approach over it to make it more interactive rather than to sticking on it that, sir, you agreed that you will be giving me the discovery out of ADDM, let's say 8.2 and then CMDB would be 7.6 or 3. Yes, sir, I agree. But in 6 months down the line, PMC has discovered that there is a issue with or a bug into that version of CMDB. So we will have to change the version of the discovery tool. This is what? This is nothing. This is an immediate change in what we are doing as a traditional project management practices. We included more resources to ensure that these are implemented. We included more people, and we made a change in the traditional project management plan. So if we think in a logical way, we all are following the Agile methodology. It's just like that, we are not accepting it. Traditional was the base, I agree, but then going forward based upon the current scenario, we have to make changes. One more example in our live scenario is the Delhi Metro Rail Corporation. In Delhi, this project was about 4 to 5 years of project. It requires a large planning. But when you start involving over the things, you said a big planning was done for 1 year and then the project initiated and was supposed to be completed, let's say, in 5 years. Then in 1.5 years down the line, we found that there is some change in the technology. Let's come back to it. Let's make changes in the plan. It's not something that I said, no, since I agreed upon this technology, I'll stick to it even though market is demanding of something else. Agile, what it does is that, sir, if there is a scope, let's not stick to our traditional laws and